Just so you have a little bit of background about me, I'm not only executive producer on this podcast, but I work at IBM. I work closely with Al, and I have a personal coach. I've done some coaching of technical sellers, right, within my job as a leader here at the company. So I'm always fascinated by coaching and everything like that. I love coaching, have a heart for coaching, think it's the differentiator of success for people. So that's why I'm here today as well.
I love it. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Listeners, today on Making Data Simple, you might notice that my voice sounds a little different than usual. That's because I'm not Al Martin. My name is Katherine Mayne, and I'm really excited to be your guest host today. I'm here joined by Jacob Hicks, a powerhouse sales and success coach who's all about helping high performers break through plateaus and build momentum that actually lasts. You think that's about right, Jacob?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have a strong background in sales leadership, and you now work with professionals and teams to stretch beyond comfort zones, master time management, create systems for sustainable success, among myriad other coaching tasks. Those are just a few of the highlights. You are the founder of jacobhickscoach.com, and we will put that link in our show notes for everybody to be able to go out there, where you share practical strategies that go beyond theory and get into results. That's one of the things I love about you is the results orientation. So today, I'm so excited to have you on the show. We're going to delve a little bit into mastering time management. But before we get going, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So as you said, beautifully, I might add, my name is Jacob Hicks. Said I was born and raised in a small town in the southwest corner of Iowa. I have about 12, 15 years of sales in my background, from retail sales all the way to outside sales and everything kind of in the middle. Most recently, obviously, I launched my coaching practice because I realized that even in my sales career, what I really loved was helping people navigate a difficult, a murky, or just kind of an unfamiliar situation and help them drive towards the goals, whatever those might be. So I've really had a ton of fun, learning and engaging with everybody that I've had in my coaching org. It's been fantastic.
That sounds great. And what's your background? What have you done from a work perspective before you branched off into your own business?
So when I was first getting going in sales, I did retail sales. So I sold suits for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks listening might think, well, retail sales, that's not really sales, but I would argue that it really was. So we were commission driven. So if we didn't sell, we weren't making much money. But after that, I got into banking a little bit, did real estate during COVID, which was as difficult as you could probably imagine. Then most recently, I was working for a couple of companies in the optical world. So I was traveling around the Midwest selling name brand frames, eyeglass frames, and then designer lenses as well.
That background shows a couple of things. One, your grit, perseverance, and tenacity, right? And the transferable skills that you've gained over that time, right? So you clearly had a package of skills that you then reapplied to your next role, and it didn't really matter the industry. It didn't really matter the product. It was like this recipe was what worked for you.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big believer that all skills in sales can be taught. And I really believe that once you have some really core pillars, like following up, time management, engaging, being able to build rapport with folks, once you have some of those core pillars already in place, then learning new product is just kind of the name of the game, and learning those new things in the new territories. So I really think it's very transferable.
You have so much to offer, and it was hard to choose which topic to talk about. But the reason I'm hoping that we can delve a little bit into the mastering time management, which you had so beautifully said was balancing sales goals with personal growth, is for two reasons. One, our time is at a premium because our attention is a premium nowadays, right? It is so fractured. We have so many other things to distract us. And so I was so intrigued because I agree with you. Sales is a numbers game. At the end of the day, it's maths. If you have enough, you will get there, barring some foundational things around relationship development. I mean, you can self-sabotage that, but generally speaking, it's a maths problem, right? So I love the idea of thinking, how can I get better about managing my time, which is really about managing my attention in an attention economy, and then adding in that personal growth. So that said, let's get into it a little bit around mastering time management.
Yeah.
What does that really mean? Tell me a little bit more.
So, I want to kind of take a little bit of a left turn if you don't mind. So for me, I mean, we'll get into it here, but kind of the strategies I always talk people through is time blocking and what I call chaos time. And we can get into some of those things, but broad strokes, kind of like a higher level, I have a strategy that I call WPRI. And essentially that's kind of my anti-strategy, I would guess, to like what we run into a lot in the sales world, where we are often told, work hard and play hard, right? Like put in your 50, 60, 70 hours a week, grind. And then once the weekend hits, once the end of the quarter hits, once the end of the year hits, and we're going to have this big bash, and we're going to have a great time. We're going to blow off all the steam that you built up over the last, 3, 6, 12 months. And then it's going to be great. And then tomorrow you're going to do it all over again, right? Which I have a pretty big problem with it because that runs into a lot of burnout. It runs into a lot of cross purposes where like my purpose as a salesperson is just to sell more and more and more. So I developed a strategy called WPRI, where the WP and R, that stands for work, play, and then rest. I really believe that all of those things need to be managed well, and they need to be a part of our daily and our weekly lives. Now, the I is the most critical part. That's the intentionality piece. I really believe, at least in my own professional career and the folks that I've worked with, the intentionality, we can really get away from it, meaning that I wake up at 6, I get my call sheet together, I make all my calls, I do all my follow-ups, I do all my admin stuff, my, working shell streets, all that stuff on the back end. And then by the end of the day, I'm exhausted, right? And then maybe, again, you might go out for a couple of drinks or, go out with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever to relax a little bit, and you do it all again the next day. And then maybe you have a big bash on the weekend, and there's no real place, in my opinion, for that true rest. And I'm a really, really big advocate that when it comes to working hard, I think there's seasons to those things, and we have to grind sometimes, particularly if we're a newer salesperson, if we're in a new territory, if we're an entrepreneur, you got to wake up and grind sometimes. There's going to be seasons for those things, but you also have to set aside time for what I call really intentional rest, meaning that you're not answering your phone a bunch, you're not checking your work emails, you're not going out and doing the next fun thing that sounds like a great time. So what I always advocate is at least one full day a week. That can be on the weekend or whatever kind of makes sense for you and your life. But find one full day that you can actually sit down and rest with a lot of intentionality. That can be, turning all the screens off and getting out in nature. That can be journaling. That can be spending some quality, like true quality time, like a family dinner with your loved ones can be really, really important. So I think when we're talking about time management, we have to know where we want to really end up. And a lot of the times we get into the nitty gritty of, okay, what does my Monday look like? Okay, from 9 to 11, I'm doing this. From 11 to 12, I'm doing this. I'm having lunch. Then from 1 to 2, those things can be important too, but we have to think larger before we get into the minutia.
That's a lot. That's a really great lens. So what I heard you say was the WPR and I is fantastic. Work, play, rest, and do it all with intentionality, because it goes to know where you want to go.
Yeah.
Don't just be spending that energy just for the sake of spending that energy. Put that energy to work. So if you're the type of person that's already going to work hard, I mean, those are the type of people who are listening to the podcast right now, right? These are the people who work hard. They want to achieve outcomes. They want to have goals, and they want to be in the 100% club at the end of the day, because we're in sales, right?
Yep.
And it's being really shrewd about what's going to get you the biggest bang for your buck. And rest is a big part of that. So you advocate a specific tactic of one day a week of basically turning off a lot of the digital distractions, or being contacted. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. And just being really mindful about that connection of, am I doing activity for activity's sake, or am I doing it to actually, does it help me drive to that outcome?
Yeah, 100%. I think you hit on a really important word, which is busy. It's so easy in our sales career and entrepreneurial career.
Yes.
We get busy, right? Where we think, oh my gosh, my calendar is full. I have all this stuff I need to do. I'm so busy. Good for me. I'm working really, really hard. And we have to go back to the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your business comes from 20% of your effort most of the time. So finding that 20% of those things that are actually driving that, and not just being busy for the sake of feeling busy, is really critical.
And so when we think about this intentionality, how does that concept of personal growth come in? So the original topic was like balancing your sales goals, and we talked about being intentional with your time during the week. What's that personal growth part? How does that lens come in on this?
So again, it comes down to the intentionality piece of it. So if you are a salesperson, right? If you're a salesperson, you want to get better at closing, or you want to get better at cold calling or prospecting, or whatever the thing might be, it's actually setting aside that intentional piece of time dedicated to it. So if maybe you're a reader, right? Like we were talking about, like I was a big reader, right? Finding that time, maybe 1, 2, 3, whatever days a week, to set aside 15, 20, 30 minutes to actually read into those topics and do some self-discovery and say, okay,
I see.
Based on my reading, this can't, I'm good at it, right? But here's 2 or 3 tweaks or 2 or 3 new strategies that I want to employ. And then the other critical piece of this when it comes to the selling in particular, because you said it on the front end, we, like salespeople, we're numbers driven, right? Like we get the reps in, we get stuff figured out. And often we can really easily fall back into what we were comfortable with, meaning that I want to get better at closing. I've done it this way for 5, 10, whatever years. I've done some reading. I figured out some other tactics. I tried it once or twice. I didn't really see some results. So maybe it's time to move on. And we have to, if we're going to iterate, we have to iterate enough to get enough data to actually see, okay, I did this 20 different times in my normal closing and I got X, Y, and Z result. That tells me that this does work or this doesn't work, or I need to try something different altogether. So being really intentional with how you're doing it and spending the quality time to learn and then to try something and iterate enough to actually see if there's any results one way or the other.
have to admit, I am hooked on the word data. Use data to be informed. That is the whole basis of our show. And I completely agree, because how will you know what to change if
Mm-hmm.
you're not keeping track of it? So I'm hooked on that part. But getting back to your broader topic about intentionality and the personal growth. So comfort and growth don't coexist, right? That's kind of one of the
Agreed.
maxims that we hear a lot nowadays.
Yep. Yep.
Comfort and growth don't coexist. So what we're saying here on balancing sales goals with personal growth, it's almost redefining that time you're taking for yourself, that 15 minutes. And when you apply the intentionality to it, it's going to make you more productive. It's going to get you where you want to go. So not being so rigid in the thinking that, okay, I have to do my prospecting sheet, I have to do all these things, but being more open to learning new ways to do that, which could be personal growth, is also going to get you better outcomes, which is what we're here to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Well, and like the other piece on the personal growth, like we can talk about, like I use the example of closing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can find new and better ways to close or prospect, or whatever the case might, whatever the skill is. But there's also, I mean, a lot to be said for on the personal growth side for just pursuing some passions. Like for me, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I always like trying new things, and something I've been trying the last couple of years is learning piano on my own. So
Oh,
like
how
spending
fun.
some quality time doing things like that like for me, I consider myself a very right brain person. I like
Mm-hmm.
data. We talked about data a lot already. I like data. I like figuring out the things, and piano kind of gives me another outlet where I can learn something on my own. It's hard. I have to grit it through it a little bit, but just finding some of those creative outlets. That might be like reading for pleasure. It might be some sort of spiritual practice. It might be listening to your favorite podcast like this one, or it could be like watching some movies, like just some things that give you another avenue outside of just being a better salesperson.
I love that. And you get some relief from being so concentrated in one topic and one lens and one point of view, and
Mm-hmm.
it stimulates your brain to think about things in a different way.
Yeah,
And that total concentration gives you a break from the day-to-day grind and being pulled in 4,000 directions. How
100%.
is your piano practice going?
That is going really well. I'm not gonna you're not gonna hear
Will
me
you
at any
play
concert
someday?
halls anytime
Okay.
soon. Yeah. But I mean, it's fun, and like my teacher, she teases me because I mean, you kind of mentioned on the front end, I consider myself kind of a gritty person. You gotta have to have a little bit of that if you're a sales guy. And she's like, I did it for a year by myself, just on my own, just trying to figure stuff out. And she's like, listen, this is crazy. Like most people would have given up, because I didn't choose like Mary Had a Little Lamb. I don't know that song. I chose some songs you probably have never heard of because I liked the song and I wanted to learn them. So I just sat down and just grind and grind and grind and grind. So it's going okay, I guess, to answer your
Oh,
question.
sure.
Yeah.
Do you have some data points that say you're making progress?
So, I mean, a couple of fun things. So another kind of small tactic I employed on myself, I guess, when I was learning is, so there's a concept that we always talk about in my head. I call it the New Year's resolution mindset, where you've never gone to the gym for the last 3 months. You decide to go to gym January 1, and then you're going, and then you're burnt out and you don't go, and you're done going by February. Right? It's where we get really, really excited about something. By the time the excitement wears off, then we're just not really interested anymore. So my tactic when it came to piano was I felt really strongly that I could practice no problem 10 minutes a day, right? And like not a huge goal, but I was like, okay, I feel like I can do that. I felt like that, but I was like, I'm going to draw that back. So I started practicing just 60 seconds a day, minimum. That's all I did. And I started building not so much the practice of piano, but I started building up that muscle for consistency. Every day I would show up and I would do just this minimum. And then I would add a minute here and I would add a minute there. And then, I mean, now I'm doing at least 30 minutes every single day, and like just iterating over and over and over again, building up that muscle for what you're really driving towards.
That is so impressive. So you took the approach to say, it's all well and good that this is the skill I want to learn, but that's predicated on having the consistency to show up and learn to doing it.
Yep.
And thinking in 10-minute chunks is too much, right? And we all have busy lives and things like that. But if I could just put in that 1 minute, that goes along the 1% better. But if I commit myself to continuing to show up, that will compound, and then I keep adding and building from there. That's incredible. From 1 minute to 30 minutes. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, it's a fun tactic because I mean, it's something that you can apply to everything, right? It's what's really, so there's a book that I'm a huge fan of called The 4 Disciplines of Execution.
Okay.
And my biggest takeaway when I read this first time, probably, I don't know, 12 years ago or something now, was like measuring the right things. And measuring the right things in sales, for example, is, I mean, we talk about it's the lead measures versus the lag measures.
Mhm.
So the things we really want to be measuring are the things that are really driving the activity. So if you figure out that, hey, I need to set 5 meetings every single day or every single week to really generate the kind of revenue or the kind of growth that I really want to see. And I know based on my own numbers, that data piece again, right, that I need to have 5 conversations or 10 conversations every single day in order to really set those meetings, like 1 a day or 5 a day or whatever the numbers are. Then those are the things you need to be measuring. How many conversations are you really having? So like that's again, piano is just kind of an example of that, but
Sure.
you can do that everywhere.
That's fantastic. That's really helpful. I want to come back to a question I had written down that I don't want to lose. I'm
Yeah.
so curious now how you're going to answer this because this has been fantastic so far. Is we're talking about time management
Mhm.
as though it's obvious what it is. And you rightfully so took us into the work, play, rest with intentionality. What are the biggest misconceptions you hear about time management in a sales context?
So, I feel like the easiest answer is I hear this a ton, and you probably do too, where people don't want to be a slave to their calendar, right? Like you don't want to put everything in your calendar. And for me, I've gotten to the point where if it's not in my calendar, then it doesn't exist. Like I don't, it's gone now. Like I can't do it, right? So people don't want to be a slave to their calendar. And I get that, right? Like you don't want to be beholden to this thing in your phone or in your computer that, oh my gosh, I've got this meeting and this meeting, I got to do this, this, and this. I get it, right? But the truth is that if we're not beholden to our calendar, and if we aren't the one actually in control of our calendar, then what we are beholden to and what we're a slave to is our feelings. And we're really just, oh my gosh, I think I've got this, and I feel like I've got this, and I feel like I'm doing well, and I feel this, and I feel that. But if we aren't really in control of our calendar, then again, we're a slave to our feelings because we're missing this and we're missing that. And we're really not showing up as prepared as we ought to be when it comes to like that first thing Monday morning, that last thing Friday afternoon. So you got to really pick and choose. Do you want your feelings and your emotions to be in control, or are you okay putting things in your calendar and having that drive for you?
So the misconception that we're talking about here is that having a structured calendar that helps organize our behavior is controlling. It's
Mm-hmm.
not controlling. In fact, it allows us to be proactive, to be our best self, to be prepared. And I'd like to add to that, I completely agree, first of all. And second thing I'd like to add to that is that there's an art form to adding in breaks. So when you talk
Yes.
about the intentionality, one of the things I used to get so burned out for is I'd go back to back to back to back. And that
Mm-hmm.
context switching is just ridiculous, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you get really burned out. You're not your best self. And then you're like, what's happening? Because I scheduled it and it's supposed to be great and I'm supposed to be prepared. And then you're all over the floor. And so being intentional about doing 50 minutes and holding it to 50 minutes or building
Mm-hmm.
in breaks, that can help manage that feeling that you alluded to at the first part, which was, oh my gosh, okay, it's 6 a.m. I got to do this. Well, that changes when you know that you're going to have 15 minutes to just breathe.
Yes, 100%. Well, and again, that comes down to that intentionality piece. And that's some self-reflection like that. I've been right there with you where I'm back to back and I'm just like, my mind has gone to mush and I'm not showing up with energy and excitement to whatever meeting I'm doing or, whoever I'm talking with. And you just have to like kind of know yourself a little bit. Like I know for me, like if I'm doing some podcast recordings, I can do about 4 or 5 a day before I start to notice a dip in my energy levels. So, and like some folks can do like 7, 8, 10 a day. And like, that's just a different kind of person. Right. So just understanding that, hey, I can really do I can have like 3 kind of really quality client meetings before I start to see a dip in my energy levels. And usually I'm better with those in the mornings or I'm better with those in the afternoons after lunch. And just having some understanding of who you are and saying like, okay, my 3 meetings are done. So now I need probably a good solid hour lunch where I get out of the office, I get out of the car, I do whatever I need to do to re-energize myself for the next thing. And I said, really building those into your calendars, I think is really key.
Great. And so now that you think about your role as an entrepreneur and every time that you've been starting a role and then every time you've been senior in a role. So as you think about your role as an entrepreneur now, how do you think about, has how you think about time management changed at all?
I would argue that the intentionality piece has become really, really key, really, really critical, honestly,
Okay.
for me as an entrepreneur. And I kind of mentioned it earlier, time blocking. I'm a huge, huge believer in time blocking. And I don't necessarily, like some folks understand that like, okay, I have a meeting from 9 to 10 and then from 10 to 12, I can, work on some other stuff. And then I have another meeting at 1 and then I'm done with that at 2. And then from 2 to 5, I can work on other stuff. And that's really kind of the smallest piece. When I talk about time blocking, you don't have to get like super in detail, like every 5 minutes you have it exactly figured out. But I mean like from 9 to 10, you have your meeting. And then from 10 to 11, you are working on this and it is time blocked in your calendar. And you actually honor that time block, meaning that, John pops into your office saying like, hey, can we talk about this stuff? Well, hey, John, not right now. I have a meeting with myself to do prospecting, to get back to these emails, to do, X, Y, and Z. And actually doing that with a lot of intentionality has been really important for me. And then I think I kind of mentioned it again earlier on. I call it chaos time. As salespeople, entrepreneurs, anybody that gets out of the house, I feel like you are interacting with people, right? And people, They can be great, but sometimes they can bring in chaos into your life, right? And we all have those like 2 or 3 clients in our office or whatever that we know are probably going to reach out to us and say, hey, I've got this big thing. My hair is on fire. The house is burning down around me. And you're the only one that can save me. You have to get this information for me right now, right now, right now. And usually it's not true, right? Usually they just have this perception, their feelings, again, are like they're feeling their feelings. They're just kind of all up in their head about stuff. So what I do is for 30 to 60 minutes every single day, I have what I time blocked in my calendar, chaos time. I mean, that is exactly for those kind of things, meaning that John calls me with yet another house on fire, saying that I'm the only one that can save him. And I actually allocate that time for him. That way, if you are going through and time blocking every single hour of your day, your whole day isn't thrown off because John called you with an emergency, and actually honors the rest of your time. And then the more advanced you get with this, so when I'm working with clients on this, what I suggest is they do it for 30 to 60 minutes for about 2 weeks, and then just kind of get used to that rhythm. And then once they have done that for a couple of weeks, do what I call an audit. Meaning that for the next week or 2 weeks, as you're doing your chaos time, notice and write down exactly what is coming up in that time. So if John is calling you 2-3 times a week and you're allocating that chaos time for John, you start to notice that pattern of John coming up every couple of days, then you can actually time block out 30 minutes for John specifically, saying like, hey, John always comes up. Usually he calls me on a Monday, usually calls me on a Tuesday. So I'm actually going to allocate 30 minutes of my time Tuesday morning for whatever John happened to come up with that day. And actually seeing what's coming up, that again will honor you. And at the end of the week, you don't have to have a whole extra day to get everything done.
I love that. I hadn't heard that before. I'd heard the idea about blocking time. I think calling it chaos time is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I hadn't heard about auditing what happened during that chaos time to, again, get proactive for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really great tip that I'm going to apply to my own calendar. So as I sit here and listen to us chat about this, it sounds straightforward. And I think that a lot of people who are listening to this are going to be like, yes, I understand. Of
Yep.
course I should do time management.
Mm-hmm.
2 questions,
Yeah.
stacking a question, not a good coaching technique. 2 questions that are stacked. 1, what stops people from doing this? And 2, how do you think, what's the most effective way to make the connection between investing this time to manage your calendar, because it is a time investment, and improved outcomes? Stacked question, go.
So I would say, I think the thing that holds people back is kind of what I already talked about is the chaos piece. Another word like is in like some books they call it like the whirlwind, right? Like you get caught up in the craziness of your day, like in that busyness. And then all of a sudden it's, 5:15, 5:30, 6 o'clock. And you're like, oh crap, I didn't time block at all. Everything has gone to crap. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So when it comes to whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a salesperson, just a business person, I think it's actually being, again, intentional and setting time in either like early in your week or late in your week to work on your business as opposed to in your business. Another way to frame that is if you are a marketer, for example, and you are working one-on-one with your clients to help them with their social media, to help them with, their flyers or whatever help you're doing them for, is actually setting aside an hour and saying, okay, I work with all of these clients. I'm going to set aside an hour at the end of my week to actually say, okay, what is working? What isn't working? How did I feel during this week? Did it feel like I was managing things, or did it feel like I was trying to catch up on things? And then being intentional again, either at the end of your day or at the end of the week, if you're that kind of person where you can really time block a whole week. Some folks can, some folks can't. And actually saying, okay, Monday morning, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Here's my time blocks for that. I've got 4 meetings in the afternoon. I'm going to set aside time for those things. I'm going to set aside my reflection time or my rest time, and actually being, again, intentional with all of those things. And in terms of like how quickly you'll see results from these things, it really kind of comes down to your intentionality again. I know I'm saying that a ton, but if you are actually setting aside time every week, or at least every 2 weeks, to work on your business as opposed to in your business, you'll actually start to notice, okay, this felt way more manageable to me, or this didn't work for me at all because I'm going to be in the car. Like I was a traveling salesman, and like time blocking worked well in some aspects and didn't work well in others. So actually finding those things, then saying, okay, time blocking didn't work for me because of X, Y, and Z. Then you take the time to iterate and saying, okay, this did work for me. This didn't work for me. I'm going to try this next week and see how that works instead.
What are some tips and tricks and tools that people can use to help them with this? I imagine AI could have a place in here.
Yes. So, I mean, AI, I'm a huge fan of AI just to kind of bounce some ideas around. But when it comes to AI, my kind of general tip for that is you have to be good at prompts. You can't just cheat. Don't treat it just like Google, where you're just typing something in like, how do I do this? It'll spit out an answer, of course. But my kind of favorite tip with this is give it a role, saying, hey, you are the best time blocking, time manager person ever. I'm struggling with this because of my business or these different reasons, whatever's going on. Let it know those things. And my favorite kind of way to end a prompt is to say, ask any questions you need to in order to perform this task to the best of your ability. And often it will come back with 2, 3, 4 different questions that I maybe hadn't thought about, hadn't thought through before, and actually ask those things like, okay, these are the answers to those things, go. And see what it kind of spits back out at you. It'll give you, I think, some solid advice here and there. Don't take it as gospel necessarily,
Yeah,
which we can all be guilty of that sometimes. Yes, yeah. But personally, a couple of things where I think having your calendar on your laptop is, I think it's really important. Check it every single day. I do think having it on your phone can be good for some people. Again, you have to kind of know yourself and see, am I able to unplug and spend time with my family or do whatever you need to do to rest and get away from things when it's on your phone? Some folks can, some folks can't, but you just have to know yourself and to see how you're going to check in. Additionally, when it comes to time management, I think the social media thing is always and forever probably going to be a conversation piece. For me personally, there's some literature out there that shows that if your phone is in grayscale, it will make it less interesting to you. Yep. So at least for iPhones, I don't know about Android or anything else, but for iPhones, you can create, there's a shortcut app on your phone that just kind of comes with it. And you can set times in the day to automatically at 8 a.m., it will go to grayscale. And then at 5 o'clock, it'll go back to color, that kind of stuff. There's also some apps out there, and there's several different versions of these where if you're struggling with social media consumption or just being on like LinkedIn or the news or whatever the case might be, you can actually block those apps for specific times of the day. And you can block them in a sense where you have zero access, like you cannot get into there at all. You can also set it to where you give yourself a little message like, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you getting back into TikTok or whatever you're doing? And you have to punch in some code in order to get that done. So there's different tools out there to help you manage some of those things.
Well, I just looked for the grayscale on my phone and I can't wait to implement that. I think that's going to be a really great idea. And I love the idea of using the technology to help you help yourself, right?
Yeah.
And really manage your attention to stay focused on what you need to get done, aligned to your goals with that intentionality like we talked about.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I've been asking you a lot of questions, and one of the things I'm so enjoying about this podcast is I can see your energy, right? It's just coming through. Our listeners don't get the benefit of that, but they can go out on your site and take a look at you, and they can schedule time to speak with you on a one-on-one basis. But I just am really impressed by your energy. So what have I not asked that you'd really like to bring forward?
Kind of on the periphery of all this kind of time management or just task management discussion is habits. I would suggest anybody out there that hasn't already, go out and read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. That can be really a game changer. And when we're talking about, like this grayscale, like that kind of stuff, really what we're doing is we're either adding friction to what we don't want to do, or we are removing friction from the things that we do want to get done. And that's, James talks about that a lot in his book. So like finding those things that will either force you to do more prospecting, to do more cold calling, to read more books about, whatever topic you're trying to improve on, find those things to help you drive towards those things, then add friction to the things that are causing you to stay away from them.
I think that's great. And so when you talk about that, I've starred everything that I've kind of written down that are top tips and tricks, right? The work, play, rest with intentionality. That's a big concept. Doing 1 day a week, no digital. That's another big concept. But when we talk about our habits, the 60 seconds to 30 minutes with a piano, that's what really struck me. And that must be predicated on removing friction or increasing friction to get the outcomes that you want, right? That's a clear evidence point to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, that's something that you can do to anything. Like, again, if you're a salesperson and you realize that I need to set one more meeting a week in order to drive these ultimate goals, or revenue goals or growth goals or whatever, and you realize that, gosh, I really need to make 10 more calls every single day to get there, but gosh, it feels unmanageable. It feels like a lot to do. Then add 1 more call a day, add 2 more calls a day. So do find that kind of magic number that you can do consistently. And once you do that for a week or 2, then add 1 more or add 2 more. And just get there and keep adding and adding and adding. And that'll, again, build that consistency muscle into the point where you are making those 10 extra calls every day.
As you were saying that, what occurs to me that we haven't addressed here is that we haven't talked about what you will stop. Because I think the whole benefit of this process, we touched on a little bit about auditing your chaos time to document what's happening and then kind of work on those things and the data to be informed. But do you want to talk for a minute about how equally important as we add 1 to 2 phone calls a week that we maybe think about what we're going to stop doing?
Yeah. So when it comes to, again, if we're going to keep it in the sales framework, finding those things, again, this comes back to what I mentioned earlier, where are you spending the time to work on your business versus working in your business, and actually being really honest with yourself about like, what are you really doing and like in your time? Right? Did you really honor that time block? Saying, hey, I was going to prospect for 30 minutes. Did I really do those things? Did I really do it as well? And when it comes to the things you're going to stop, I think it comes down to what things aren't ultimately driving your business. And like, I know for me, like, I don't really care for like the back end admin work. So I'm going to have some folks help me with some of those things. But finding those things that ultimately aren't driving you towards your goals, that aren't allowing you to focus on your prospecting, on your goal setting, on, really, again, driving those big rocks every single day is really what it comes down to, and really what will ultimately get you where you want to go.
Fantastic. Well, I kind of want to bring this up, wrapping it up for today. I've really enjoyed the time with you, but I have a couple of last minute questions that are perhaps a little provocative.
Okay.
Always fun to have that dropped on you.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, no problem. But this is recorded. We can edit it as much as we want. But my question is, as I think about coaching in my own leadership role, and as I think about how we interact together, and as I think about all the movies that have been made, is AI coming for all of us? Is there a place for us, Jacob, in coaching with the advent of AI? How does that work?
So I'm a really big believer that I think AI will do a lot for us. It will elevate things if we allow it to, and it can hold us back if we allow it to. When it comes to coaching and sales in general, again, I think it can and will be a great tool for us, but I don't think we can ever take away the human element. I really don't think that we can. And the unfortunate thing when it comes to AI is like it can feel human. Like if you talk to it enough, it starts to learn how you talk and how you like to be talked to.
Yep.
And I think that, again, if we're allowing ourselves to be driven by our emotions, then that can feel really good. But again, if we are willing to take a step back and work on our business of, just being a human every single day, then I don't think we can ever take away that true human element of driving where we want to go.
And listeners, just to be very clear, this is a human to human podcast.
Yes.
And I agree 100% that, as I've said for years and years, it's about people doing business. So if you don't have those professional skills to be able to communicate with impact, if you don't have those professional skills of being able to listen, to understand problems rather than to speak next, you're going to be sunk. It doesn't matter what it is. And AI can't come close to that.
Yes.
So why don't you close us out by telling us a little bit more about your coaching business, where people can find you, any last minute thoughts about what you'd like to share?
Yeah. So, the first thing I want to mention to some folks, I think there can be a lot of confusion in the coaching world, where I think coaching and sometimes consulting can get kind of synonymous. And I really don't believe that to be the case. In my mind, a consultant is somebody that comes in and says, hey, I've got a problem. I'm going to hire this person to help me drive more sales or whatever it is. And then they tell me to do X, Y, and Z, and then I can either do those things or not. And then I don't see them again. I write them a check and off they go. And coaching, I really believe that it is you driven. And I think a good coach is somebody that is going to help you understand where it is that you really want to go. Obviously, revenue goals are really important to that, but understand like what kind of life do you really want to lead? Like what does an ideal day really look like for you? And I think so many of us can get caught up in that day-to-day chaos and that day-to-day whirlwind, and we don't really see those things. And I also think that a good coach will help you to understand who you are in a deeper level and understand your why. So often in sales, we are accused of only being money driven. And obviously we're going to be financially driven people. That's part of being a salesperson, right? But more often than not, we're missing something. And if you're only driven by money, I call that a soft why. So a real good coach will help you understand what it is that is really driving you. And I think, again, it's something that's so easy to miss. But if anybody ever out there is wanting to, sit down and chat about some of those things, they can reach me most easily on my website, jacobhickscoach.com. I'd love to give a free call, an hour call to everybody listening. I also have my own podcast called Purpose Driven Progress, where we get into some of these things in a lot of detail. So anybody listening, I would love for you guys to check that out too.
Oh, that's great. I am so sorry I missed that up front.
Okay.
I will make sure to go out and take a listen. Purpose-driven podcast. Purpose-driven
Progress.
Purpose-driven progress, and jacobhickscoach.com. Well, Jacob, I can't thank you enough for spending the time today. Listeners, thank you for allowing me to step in as your guest host. I love everything coaching, leadership, and data. There are so many other things that I had questions on, like what data do you look at, the leading and lag metrics, how do we manage that? But we'll have to do that another time. So Jacob, thank you so much for sharing your time and your energy today. It was wonderful. I loved a lot of the tips that I got, especially around auditing what's happening during your chaos time. 60 seconds turns into 30 minutes if you just keep showing up and doing it. 1 day a week, no digital, and really that framework of work, play, rest with intentionality, WPRI. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was fantastic.
All right, listeners, that's us for today. We'll do the usual thing where I put all of the relevant links in the show notes, and give us a shout out if you like us and any other topics that you'd like to hear. Until then, we'll catch you on the backside.